Should she win in a couple days and she seeks re-election in 2028, every single thing that she says, every misstep that she makes is going to come into play during her re-election. All of these things. I could just hear the ads now. Remember when Kamala Harris said this to Christian voters?
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
Kamala hates Christians.
We remember Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade, and they did as he intended. Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
You know, I'm starting to think that Kamala Harris wants to lose this election. I'm convinced that she wants to lose this election because I cannot explain away her actions over the past week. I've never seen anybody who is angling to be president of this country move the way she's moving. Like many of you, I watched this video with these 2 men who were at her rally, screaming out, "Christ is King, Jesus is Lord," and being told, no, basically, you're at the wrong place. Go down to the rally with less people. All right, bet. To me, it shows a complete lack of respect that the vice president has for Christians in this country. You know, her statement, and I'm going to get to her, but I think what really pissed me off the most was the people in the audience, many of whom I'm sure identify as Christians, who were cheering for her during this exchange. And those men, by the way, were angry because they said that in subsequent interviews, they said that they don't support abortion. And we'll get to that. Not only were they basically told you're not welcome, but they were shown the way out, and they said that they were shoved and pushed by people in the audience. For me, y'all risking a lot putting your hands on people, especially in this climate. These people bold. You just saw a former president almost get his head blown off. What if these fellas who were there had a weapon and you touched them and they went off on you? Y'all a little too comfortable putting y'all hands on people. But Kamala Harris, I don't know if she understands that this abortion issue is a very divisive one. I think she has an understanding, but she has to know, right? That there are going to be people who attend her rally to hear what she has to say, who may not agree with every single thing that she says, especially on this issue that is incredibly divisive. You know, I said it before and I will say it again, that people in this country are very comfortable, perhaps too comfortable, insulting Christians. That's from politicians all the way down. Everyday people, they take Christians for a joke. They don't feel the need to show any sort of reverence or respect for Christians. Had someone wearing a hijab, or 2 women wearing a hijab, been at that rally and shouted, of course they wouldn't shout Christ is King, but Allah is King or whatever, and abortion is wrong, I think we would have seen a completely different response. One that was understanding, a tone that was more muted towards those individuals, versus these 2 white men who are screaming Christ is King and Jesus is Lord, being told basically don't let the door hit you on your way out. You're not welcome here. And that may have been addressed directly to those 2 men, but I can tell you a lot of Christians got hit in the crossfire. And it's funny because if you listen to the reaction, the responses from not just Christians, but Jewish people and Muslims saying, I can't believe she said that. But this is also a woman who, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't seem interested in engaging Catholics in this country. She recently skipped the Al Smith dinner, which it's tradition for a lot of politicians, particularly those who are angling to be president, to attend. She instead filmed her bit, which felt like an SNL bit, propped up by Molly Shannon's bit in her bit. And that was her way of engaging with Catholics. We have 68% of the people in this country identifying as Christians, and we have 52 million Catholics practicing in the United States. And Kamala Harris feels the need to insult and exclude and just be disrespectful to those individuals weeks before a major election where the stakes are high. This is why I say I think she just doesn't care. She's running, but I don't think she really wants to win this. That's the only thing I can conclude. She couldn't possibly, because she is being advised poorly, or maybe she's being advised correctly and she's not heeding the advice, because there's always that. You already have so many voters saying they do not want to support her. They don't view her as a good candidate. This is a woman who just several weeks ago was on The View. Sunny Hostin asked her a direct question about whether she would have done anything differently. And she stared in the air and she said, no, nothing that I can think of. I mean, we have an open border, millions of illegal migrants entering. Some illegal migrants have unalived American citizens. She's offered her condolences to that, but nothing I would have done differently. And that's why this question keeps coming up time after time about whether you feel as if you are better off today than you were 4 years ago. And for those of you who can say, yes, I'm better off today than I was 4 years ago, if your answer is yes, then you go right to her response to Sunny Hostin, where she said, there's nothing that I would have done differently. So you can expect more of that moving forward. Anytime I watch these man on the street interviews and a microphone is placed inside of someone's face and they ask him, why are you voting for Kamala Harris? Why do you support her? Nobody can ever point to her success in office over these past 4 years as vice president. No one. It's always the same two things. We hate Donald Trump and he's a threat to democracy. So it's not even a vote for Kamala Harris. It's a vote against Donald Trump. Let's talk about this democracy that you all are so hell-bent on preserving, because this is the same group that tried to keep Dr. Jill Stein off the Wisconsin ballot. If that ain't political sabotage, I don't know what is. They also tried to do the same thing to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in several states. Of course, he's no longer running, but they tried to do the same thing to him. And to me, that is political sabotage. So miss me with the high and mighty speech about wanting to shore up democracy or safeguard democracy when they are literally out here trying to get rid of their competition by denying them ballot access. Dr. Jill Stein spoke extensively about how the Democrats got their army of lawyers to come after the Green Party to throw them off the ballot, to deny them access in 3 states. But y'all don't want to talk about that. This is a woman who says that she will put a Republican in her cabinet. Well, ma'am, why would I vote for you? Why don't I just go and elect a Republican president to put Republicans in their cabinet? And I think at this point now, she has gone too far left for even moderate liberals. And that's why you have to be so very careful about these pronouncements that you make in public, right? When you are so interested in attacking that one person, the people who are getting hit in the crossfire, they're affected by that as well. Should she win in a couple days and she seeks re-election in 2028, every single thing that she says, every misstep that she makes is going to come into play during her re-election. All of these things, I could just hear the ads now. Remember when Kamala Harris said this to Christian voters?
Oh, you guys are at the wrong rally. No, I think you meant to go to the smaller one down the street.
Kamala hates Christians. You gotta be careful about the things that you say. And maybe it's good that she's saying it so people can know just where her heart is. I actually respect that. Show me who you are so I know who I'm voting for or who I don't want to vote for. You know, and I'm going to say something and y'all could disagree. It's crazy to me. Even with Joe Biden's declining faculties, he was a much stronger candidate than Kamala Harris. Argue amongst yourselves. I can honestly say that. Because he had more substance. And it's a shame that he was in a decline, because I would have much preferred him to be running than Kamala Harris. Another thing that I've also observed is that the momentum that she had right after it was announced that she was going to be succeeding Joe Biden, all that euphoria has worn off. Yes, she got so much money in the donations. Donors were happy. I think it re-energized the base. People were like, okay, we finally have a good fighting chance now against Donald Trump. And then, just decline. We have uncontrollable immigration. We have this Israel conflict. We have this Ukraine conflict. And these things are not going to go away. Let me also talk about this abortion bit, because Again, like I said earlier, this is a very divisive issue. But you have to understand, and maybe this is why she didn't go and speak before the Catholics, because Catholics are very against abortion. There are many people who are not Catholic, who are Christians, who believe in the Bible, who believe in God's word, who do not support abortion. It is murder. Now, I personally would not have an abortion. I don't want a woman to have an abortion. I remember having a big old argument with a friend of mine many years ago who would say, oh, but what if you were sexually assaulted and it resulted in you having a baby or getting pregnant? I'd have my baby. That's me. But she asking me, what would I do? I'd have my baby. Because one thing I'm not going to do is be traumatized by that moment of being sexually assaulted and then murder my child. And now I have to live with two traumatic events. What happened to me and what I did to someone else. Y'all also have to understand this. Every man out here ain't running from children. There are many men who would love to have their kids. The women sometimes decide, I don't want it and that's the end of it. Oh, it's my body, it's my choice. No, it's not your body. Because if it were your body, you'd die and not your baby. In that moment, you are serving as the host, for sure. But it's still a human being. Everybody watching this video, if they heard a story of a woman having a 1-month-old or a 2-week-old or a 1-day-old child in her hand, and she unalives her child, would be disgusted by that, horrified. But if she does it in her womb, it's not an issue. Several years ago on social media, I saw a girl bragging about having 7 abortions. Ha ha, and I'll have more if I want to, it's my body. People who use abortion as a form of birth control. And they're happy to make their womb a tomb. And when there are people who speak out against this stuff, they say, mind your business, not your business. It doesn't stop people from saying, listen, murder is wrong. I'm going to speak out against it. The difference here for me is God gave me free will, so I'm not going to take away your free will. You want to have an abortion? Go for it. Your choice. You have to live with the consequences, not me. The people who say, oh no, I'm going to stop you, I don't agree with that. You have to make decisions for yourself. You also have to live with the consequences. The problem for me is I feel we don't talk to women about other options. It's never, could you live with this? The baby is 100% innocent. It's still half of you. Could you live with this child? Could you? Do you think you could have a good life with this baby? Or do you just, too traumatic, I need to get rid of it? We don't even consider, would you be willing to have the baby and let the child be adopted? So you don't murder the child, but at the same time, you don't have to live with the child? No, let's just go right to abortion. I've heard and seen men. Just a month ago, I watched a guy on YouTube crying. He was speaking to some, I don't know, it was like a town hall meeting. And he was talking about abortion. He was saying how he had begged his then girlfriend not to have an abortion. And she went ahead and she did it anyway. He already had a name for his child, whom he kept referring to this child by that name. Talk about the trauma.
My daughter's name is Clementine. She was 5 months along when she was aborted. My daughter was healthy. I begged her mother not to go through with the abortion. She was confused and she regrets it now. My daughter was 5 months and she was ripped apart. My daughter doesn't get a funeral. This has been a month and 3 days. I have her sonogram picture the first time I heard her heartbeat. And I bring this up to people and I say, well, she had a heartbeat. Wasn't she a person? And I'm being told she's a fetus, which, by the way, everybody, that's Latin for offspring. So I don't know why we're speaking Latin. I speak English. I'm told by my friends, I'm crying over somebody I never met before. Why isn't my daughter human enough for people to care? Why isn't my daughter woman enough for her to have a body and for her to have a choice? My daughter was going to be beautiful. As a father, I'm just supposed to forget. I'm just supposed to move on. I don't know who did this to my daughter. I wish I could ask him.
I've seen women online talking about, hey, y'all think abortion is so easy. Women who have had abortions getting mad at other women who are so cavalier about it. Even if you get rid of your baby, you think you stop marking time? You think when you see a child who is 1 or 2 or going off to first grade or whatever, you think you're not thinking about the fact that your child would have been there as well? That never goes away. And I don't think that enough conversations are had about this very same thing. Again, I say, I'm not going to stop you from doing what you want to do. So when individuals get mad and they go to a rally and they use their freedom of speech, which is guaranteed in the Constitution, why are you attacking them physically? Kamala Harris missed an incredible moment to me. She missed an incredible moment to really turn that around. And like I said, I was very angry and disappointed to see people who were in that audience applauding for that. It's almost, for me, like people are prepared to side with man over God.